So let me tell you a story. A story about a ship that is currently stuck in Egypt's Suez Canal and is causing a world of hurt. Literally. This ship is going to very likely increase how much you have to pay for gas and certain other goods, at least temporarily. And it is an absolutely fascinating story, so I had to make a video on it. So let's dig into everything you need to know about this situation, and maybe, just maybe, we'll cover some somewhat hilarious Suez Canal memes at the end of this video. So just starting off, the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is a 140-mile shortcut between Asia and Europe, the shipping route between Asia and Europe. The Suez Canal accounts for 12% of global trade. 12% of global trade flows through that 140-mile stretch. This equates to $400 million worth of goods flowing through that canal per hour, or between $3 and $9 billion per day in goods. So let's take a look at Google Maps here just so you can see how important this is. So we can see here Africa. We all know Africa. And we have the Gulf of Aden. Now if we zoom in here through the Red Sea, zoom in a little further, it looks like it ends, but it doesn't. This is where the Suez Canal is. And this is about 1,500 feet wide and spans, like I said, 140 miles. Now this is extremely important because lots of things come from China. And in order to ship from China over to Europe, and sometimes even all the way over to the US if they're taking this route, it's real convenient to go through the Suez Canal. And if this canal is blocked, the alternate route is around all of Africa, which is basically like, let's say you needed to take a road trip from Ohio to Indiana, but the border between Ohio and Indiana was blocked. So the only route you could take is by going through California and then to Indiana. I mean, that's basically what's happening right now with the Suez Canal. And then we have the ship that's stuck. This ship is called the Ever Given, and I've been trying to think of a good pun for its name for the last half hour, and I couldn't come up with anything, so if you can think of something, leave that in the comments below. But this is one of the biggest container ships in the world at 1,300 feet long. So let's take a look at some pictures of this absolute behemoth. So here we can see this is the back of the Ever Given. And it doesn't look that big just comparatively, but we don't have anything to reference. Those boxes on there are the size of a semi. You know, one of those fits on a semi and they're just packed in there. This looks like just Legos, or it's just absolutely wild how big this thing is. And here we can see the scale compared to the Empire State Building. It's literally the length of the Empire State Building. And here we can see a picture of this thing actually stuck. It says Evergreen, but that's actually the company name. It's called Ever Given, this vessel. I've seen that confusion a few times. But this thing is absolutely massive. There's 20,000 containers on here. So 20,000 semi-truck loads on this ship right now, stuck in the middle of the Suez Canal, just wedged there. Now this vessel was supposedly blown off course by high winds, but others are saying this may be a factor, but that's pretty common to have high winds, especially in that stretch. And it's the kind of thing that should have been totally preventable. So there's kind of some finger pointing going on one side, and then the other side's like, no, this wasn't preventable. It's kind of like that scene in Austin Powers where he's stuck in the hallway and he's like backing. You know what I'm talking about. I can't play it because of YouTube copyright, but that's exactly what's happening right now, except for a massive container ship. The problem is, if the Suez Canal is closed, ships don't have a great second options like we saw on Google Maps there. And there's over 200 massive container ships waiting right now, and that is just building up by the hour. There's additional ships building up by the hour. Now, some ships are opting to just reroute and go around Africa, but this can add 6 to 10 days to their trip and can cost an additional $500,000 per ship as they go around that 5,500-mile additional stretch. And not to mention, there's a huge risk of pirates too, especially because pirates know the news right now, and they know there's going to be a lot of additional ships going around that cape, and pirates be pirated, and there's going to be some massive risks there as well. And then on top of this, there's going to be a backlog after this thing is finally wedged out, and it may take several weeks for all the ships to actually flow through after it is finally cleared. And if this lasts for a week or more, which, I mean, we're almost coming up on a week right now, there's going to be even bigger problems, because once this bottleneck is taken out, there's going to be no space in ports. So in the next week or so, ports are going to be totally empty, or much less full than normal. But then the week after that, there's going to be no space to unload all these ships, which is just going to cause more problems down the line. Now, what will this do to prices? It's going to have a dramatic effect, especially in Europe, but this could increase prices of everything potentially. But crude oil is going to be the most affected, and this is actually already going up. So we can see the WTI crude is already up 4%, Brent crude is already up 4%. This is going to be the biggest effect because there's many crude oil ships sitting there waiting, not able to go through, and it's just classic supply and demand. There's more demand than there is supply right now, as all that supply is held up waiting in front of the Suez Canal. Now, like I said, Europe is going to be more affected than the US, and that's because many goods in the US come from Asia across the Pacific, so they don't have to go through the Suez Canal. But that doesn't take into account the fact that sometimes goods go through the Suez Canal to Europe, where goods are assembled or partially assembled in Europe and then shipped to the US. I mean, we're a global economy, so it absolutely will affect the US, just maybe not quite as much as Europe. And on top of this, there's already tons of supply chain issues. This is just going to make things worse, as just basic supplies needed to make goods and services, especially things like medication and microchips right now, are extremely limited, and things are already behind, and there's increased demand as the world is starting to open up. And then on top of this, there's a container shortage. Literally the thing that goods are shipped in, the big metal boxes that go on semis, there's a shortage of them. There's 180 million of them in the world. There's enough in the world, but the problem is the US is buying way more things from Asia than we're selling to Asia. So it's like for every 3 containers that go to the US, only 1 is getting sent back, and this is causing even more of a backlog and increasing prices of shipping from Asia to US, and the whole thing is just a complete and absolute mess. So what's happening now? How long is this going to last? How long is this going to be backed up? Well, they've been trying to dig around it, and it's kind of funny to see this tiny little digger trying to dig this thing out. But it could take potentially weeks to free up, certain contractors are saying. Now the US military is offering to help, so maybe they'll be able to help a little bit. Biden says that we have more equipment than anyone else, and we'll be able to figure this out. So they're going to be there in a couple days, but it could potentially take weeks to clear this entire thing up. So now let's finish this off with some memes, because people are really taking a liking to the humor of this situation on the internet. The internet, again, is undefeated, so let's look at some memes here. The first one, pivot. This one really cracked me up. Pivot. Things I need to do, me. Yeah, I feel like that sometimes when I need to put out 2 videos a day. This one was such a good edit. The Q-tip, like, let's just knock that thing out. Maybe this is what the US military is going to do. They're just going to come in with a massive Q-tip. Here we go. Has anyone tried this? WD-40. So funny. And then finally, you may make mistakes, but at least they're usually not. We can see your mistake from space. Bad. Yeah. I mean, you can really tell kind of the Austin Powers situation going on here. So that's everything you need to know about the blockage in the Suez Canal and why you might pay slightly more at the pumps in a couple weeks from now. So I would like to thank you for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe, and I hope you have a profitable day.